website right now and download my free course on alternate picking mastery. It contains 5 essential exercises that will take you to alternate picking mastery faster than you can imagine. And then I've included my method of how to lay out a practice plan in just 1 to 2 minutes that will absolutely boost your results like nothing you ever tried before. So go download it right now. It's free. Hello. Got an interesting question from a guy who's practicing sequences, which is one of my key areas where I really think you should put some effort if you want to learn how to improvise or just play really cool solos. And so he was practicing this and say, I don't know what degree I'm on in the scale, where I am in the scale. I'm just thinking in frets, like the 5th, 7th, 8th. And so it seems like it's detached from any musical perspective, right? It's like I'm practicing mechanics and not music. Exactly. That's what we're doing. And the answer to your question is that, when I started out, there was this music theory, this whole story about what it is that we do when we play music. And then there was music. And the two seemed to have, a lot of things to do with each other, but I couldn't use it when I was playing. I couldn't use it. I wasn't thinking in notes when I was playing. I was thinking in shapes, and I just kept thinking in shapes. So I have scale shapes, I have arpeggio shapes. I don't even think about what note I'm playing when I'm improvising or playing solos. I don't think about what chord is in the background almost. It's like once the chord progression is established, I see patterns, I use sequences intuitively, and that's where we want to focus. If you're composing a song, then you can use music theory. But even then, I'm using mostly intuition. And that's the main point of this video. Because what is intuition? Well, when we improvise, it's all intuition. Everything. And when you're composing, you use intuition to create the melodies, but then you support that with music theory. You're trying to come up with a cool phrase like over any chord, right? And you go and you scramble, and then eventually you might say, okay, let's try hit the 3rd of that chord, or let's try and hit the 9th. That seems to be usually, and that's music theory. The 9th is over a minor chord. I really like that, right? And then you have a concept, like a rule in your head that you can try to use in order to come up with some cool stuff. But when you improvise, that doesn't happen. You don't know what notes you're playing. You don't know what degree of the scale. Nothing of that goes on with anybody. Because it's simply too fast, and that's where intuition comes. So what is intuition? Well, normally we think of it as something like, well, I just felt like it. For some reason, I want to choose that. My intuition says. How do you know it's not just your urge to buy something that you can't afford that says that you have to buy it? How do we know it's our intuition and not just a stupid emotion that my intuition tells me to eat that big cake in one piece, right? Is that intuition, or we don't know what we're talking about, basically. But intuition is really a word to describe what the brain does when your conscious mind cannot process the amount of information you have available in the time frame available. So when you're improvising, there's technical stuff, right? You have techniques. You have different sequences that are combined. You have different like vibrato, sliding, bending. You have scale shapes moving by. You have arpeggio shapes. You got some ear training so you can feel and hear where's the next note. What do I hear in my head? And you play it, and it's all very rapid. It's all intuition. Because the brain simply cannot, your conscious mind, your frontal lobes, cannot process information that fast. It can teach the deeper parts of the brain how to do these things. So when you're practicing, you're basically using your frontal lobes to teach your more automated, unconscious parts of the brain how to do this. That's what this is all about. But when so music theory is relevant to the frontal lobes. Yeah, you want to use that scale over these chords. Once the chords start whipping by and you have to produce something, that is, a fixed thing. You don't go back and say, okay, what are we doing now? Do we have a minor 7th flat 5? Let me see. Am I using the Locrian here, or am I going for the diminished arpeggio? What should I? It's too slow. So your tools has to, that's why I'm such a big fan of mastery. It's when you stop something when you're good, you start practicing it, you won't be able to really play music because you're thinking about the mechanics all the time. When you're playing, you should be beyond theoretical concepts. And that's what intuition is, right? That's when I know that is right. I can't say why, because it's the subconscious part of the brain who's processing hundreds, maybe thousands of different experiences in your life, different information, pieces of information, and there's simply too much for you to be aware of it all. But the result of it is, that's it. But, distinguishing between that and just stupid emotions, and some emotions aren't really, just let's be honest, right? I don't want to practice. Well, yes, you do, but right now you want to, go hang out on the couch, but it'll make you much happier to go practice, but you go hang out on the couch instead. That's a stupid emotion, right? Sorry. So what we want to make sure is that we use this music theory as an understanding, a mental understanding of what goes on here, what scales to use, what arpeggios we can use over any given chord. But then we want to make it very graphical. We want to use the fact that everything is visual on the guitar neck. There are patterns, visual patterns. And that's it, right? So we want to train ourselves to use the A minor arpeggio, then the D minor arpeggio. But then when you play, you should be so good at it that it's not really you. You might see the actual arpeggio shape change on the fretboard as you're playing. If that's what you do, or you're simply using your ear to find the right note. I hope this all makes sense, but just don't think that music is about knowing about music. That has no relevance when you're playing it. And the first guys who were playing stuff didn't know anything. They played music without knowing what they did. It sounds great when I'm playing these two notes together, or these three notes. Huh? Don't you think? Oh. And then I go, okay, I got this. Right? And then you start jamming, and then let me see. Okay, right? And then you come up with things, and suddenly music happens. And then comes music theory. Well, the two chords of the 7th from the 5th and to the right, and talk about it on an academic, conceptual level. But that's not music. We can use it to understand and get results faster. But music, it's training. It's training your body to be able to do what you want it to do. Just like playing football, you can say a lot about playing football, and you need to hit the ball and the strategy and the techniques. But when it goes up, when this game starts, it's just bam, right into it, and you're using all the skills you got, the technical skills, the physical skills, and everything. Your understanding of strategy, but you don't think, oh my God, it's okay. The ball gets to him, then I should position myself in an optimal position on the playing field in order for me to. Oh, it's over. The ball's somewhere else, right? You use your strategy and you practice over and over and over again with everything involved, and that brings you to a place where you intuitively, rapidly, instantly can determine what the right thing you need to do is. Instantly, right? That's a cool analogy, actually, because it's exactly the same thing. Subscribe for more free videos. Do it. Do it now. Do it.